Coming up on Network Africa. Tunisian parliament dissolved after MPs defy president. Kenyan president's bid to change constitution rejected by Supreme Court. Plus, Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo says country to commence COVID-19 vaccine production by 2024. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Kenyatta Shoboale. We begin in Tunisia, where President Kais Saied has dissolved parliament, which he suspended 8 months ago following mass protests. It came after MPs gathered online on Wednesday and voted to reverse presidential decrees that have given him near total power since last year. The president termed the parliament's move a coup attempt. He says parliament has lost its legitimacy and betrayed the nation, and the MPs responsible would be persecuted. In East Africa, 2 states in Somalia are yet to conclude voting for their parliamentary seats as the 31st March deadline lapses. The country uses a complex and indirect system. A one-person, one-vote election has not been held for more than 50 years. MPs are chosen by delegates appointed by clan elders and members of civil society who are selected by regional state officials. The MPs then vote for a new president. 6 seats are yet to be voted in for south-central Hirshabelle State, while southern Jubaland is yet to fill 16 seats because of an ongoing political tussle. Somalia risks losing economic and security support from regional and international partners over consistent election delays. Several deadlines have been missed since February 2021. Meanwhile, according to the UN assistance mission in Somalia, the country's maritime capabilities has received a major boost with the inauguration of a new state-of-the-art maritime facility for the Somali police force in Mogadishu. The facility, which is funded by the EU and developed by the United Nations, is made up of a furnished headquarters block with information technology equipment, a detention facility, a floating jetty and boat ramp, and an accommodation unit.
The leadership of the Ministry of Interior and the Somali Police Force, we were pleased to be part of the inauguration of the Maritime Law Enforcement Facility in the port of Mogadishu. This state-of-the-art facility will support Somalia in policing its maritime security, and we were pleased to be a part of it as the United Nations.
UNOPS has implemented this project, supported and funded by the European Union, to deliver a headquarters for the Somali Maritime Police Unit and to allow them to have an effective operational centre. The total cost was around about 3 million, but the end results mean that the Somali Police Force and the Maritime Police Force will have a much more effective ability to operate, interact offshore and within the coastal areas of Somalia to ensure maritime crime is reduced and effectively work forward on that.
Still in East Africa, Kenya's Supreme Court has ruled against President Uhuru Kenyatta's plan to make broad constitutional changes, saying he had acted unlawfully. Known as the Building Bridges Initiative, the government had sought to overturn its rejection by lower courts. It was a lengthy ruling on a number of technical issues by the 7 Supreme Court judges. A majority of the judges agreed with the lower courts that such changes to the Constitution should be citizen-led rather than initiated by a head of state. BBI was the brainchild of President Kenyatta and his former rival, opposition leader Raila Odinga, but it was not backed by Deputy President William Ruto, who was falling out with the president. The VOA's Mohammed Yusuf is in Nairobi. Mohammed, is this verdict a surprise? Speak to us about the key points today.
Hi. It didn't surprise me, Kenyans generally, because the Supreme Court ruling comes after, since last year, there have been two more rulings from the High Court and the Court of Appeal, all sharing similar ruling that, look, this initiative was not led by popular initiative, by people generally, but this came from the executive. And people are not really surprised by that, because that is the argument that all the three courts have said. And generally, again, the whole issue of public participation, that is also something that has come out very clearly, that this public never participated in all this initiative, all this plan to change the constitution. And more generally also, when you talk of creating 70 new constituencies, that was also public never participated that. So it didn't surprise many people, because they believe that the initiative was not public driven, but rather driven by politicians.
So what are the implications of this verdict? Is this the end of the road for the president's plan?
No, really. The court ruled, finally, it said that out of all these 7 issues, 4 can be appealed. And one of it is the new 70 constituencies, and also the legality, or looking at how the electoral body was formed. That is something that also can be argued. And also the other issue is the idea that still this can be brought back into the Supreme Court, and the president and people who are pushing this still stands a chance. But again, generally, I think the president will be really happy, because the 2 lower courts said that he can be prosecuted, and the Supreme Court said that he has the immunity, and that is something that will not take place, as he's still the president even if he breaks the law. So there's that big mix of it, but the question generally now is, we are going to election in 4 months' time. Do people have that time to go back to court? I think there are people who would like to go back to court, but the time is not there to argue much of this. People assume that after the election, this thing will be brought up again.
But just speak to us and help us understand why this initiative is so controversial, and also the role of the deputy president in all this.
It is more controversial because Kenya have a new constitution, and this was integrated in 2010, and it created more positions. You have 47 governors, you have 47 senators, you have 47 women representatives, and these positions are not there, but the new constitution created those positions. And now you have another amendment that's being brought by saying, for example, we need a prime minister, 2 deputies, and 70 new constituencies. People are not happy with that, and they feel that this is not what they really need, because also they feel that, generally, like the rest of Africa, that there are more political positions generally in the continent, and Kenyans feel the same, that we need to reduce these numbers because it's creating more problems for taxpayers, and we need to reduce that. And now you have an initiative that is also wants more positions, and people are not really happy with that. That's why it's more of a controversial. And BBI, actually, when you look at it, it's more of an idea by the president and his opponent in 2017 election, and that is Raila Odinga, former prime minister. And this is something that his deputy, who they fall out after the election, was not really happy with it. And so he quite feels that this is an idea for these 2 leaders, not for me, and I'm not part of it. He's also rejecting that. And so and that's generally what it is. And this is an idea for the 2 leaders, people who were on the opposing camps in 2017. Now the deputy and the president are not together, and now the deputy is also opposing that. And that's generally how Kenyans have felt about its politics of betrayal and looking at creating more positions. After a while, then you have an idea where people are falling out, and then you have politicians saying we need to create more positions to stabilize the country, because generally Kenyan elections are very violent sometimes.
And speaking about the elections, which is fast approaching, what preparations are you already seeing?
Generally, looking at the elections and starting with, because the election being a process, looking at the voter registration, that hasn't been that really good, and the Electoral Commission are not really happy with those numbers, the number of people who have come out to register as voters. They were expecting about 6 million, and they're about 4 million, and politicians are still pushing for people to come out and register. And they're trying to set up the Electoral Commission to make it work. Compared to 2017, when it had many issues, the timing and everything wasn't working for them. And now there are a couple of laws they're trying to pass, and for now it's not working. And one of it is how you're going to transmit the elections. And we quite remember in 2017, these were the highlights and these were some of the issues. How are you going to transmit the elections? And some places, of course, like the rest of Africa, you have places where there's no network. The 3G network is not so good. How do you do it? You're going to release that technology, or you're going to pass results manually? And that has always been the issue with the Kenyan elections when it comes to transmitting of results, and that has really created lots of problems. And it's interesting to see how the Electoral Commission now is going to handle the same issue that has really been a problem in previous elections in 2007, 2013, and 2017. But again, politically, Raila now has been endorsed by many political parties, more political leaders, and some observers feel that he stands a chance and there'll be no problems. But again, Deputy President is also vying, and he's very popular, and he's also a force to reckon with. I think it'll be interesting to see in the 4 months' time how elections in Kenya will be. And of course, it can't go without violence, but people hope this time round there'll be no violence, there'll be more of a peaceful election.
Yeah, definitely a lot to look forward to. VOA's Mohammed Yusuf, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Meanwhile, a Kenyan startup hopes to bridge the digital divide in the country by providing cheap, fast internet connection to Nairobi's poor neighbourhoods. Kenya is one of Africa's most connected countries, but connection quality is often low.
Daniel Nzoma's face glows in the light of a computer screen as he reviews computer codes used for driverless cars and crop disease detection, an unusual job in Nairobi's crowded Pipeline neighborhood. Nzoma's job, which includes geotagging, needs reliable and fast internet connectivity that wasn't available in Pipeline. But startup company Power Internet is aiming to provide fast, cheap internet to low-income Kenyan neighborhoods, such as Pipeline.
The geotagging really requires high internet speed for you to be accurate. The key thing with summer source, with remote task, with Cloud Factory, they really require accurate, because this data that will translate to something else bigger, and you cannot afford something that is not accurate. Also, you have to improve on your efficiency, which relies on your internet.
Companies often outsource work that underpins artificial intelligence to people who label roadside objects or teach driverless cars to recognize their surroundings, distinguish between a smudge of dirt on a fruit and disease, teaching machines to do the same. But this is only possible with high-speed internet.
We use a different set of technologies than most of the other suppliers. So in Kenya, internet is heavily dominated by 3G and 4G operators, with a few rich homes getting fibre to the home. We use a form of super amped up Wi-Fi to deliver. So we use a wireless network to deliver to customers' homes, and this allows us to reduce the cost of each home that we connect, and we can pass that saving on to our customers.
Cheap, fast internet bridges the digital divide, offering more access to jobs, trade, education, and social inclusion. But few, if any, companies lay fiber connections in poor neighborhoods. Most people there connect through their phones using 3G or 4G data bundles. In January, POA closed a $28 million funding round led by Infrastructure Fund Africa 50. It hopes to expand beyond Kenya. Halsell says the 5-year-old company will turn a profit within a year.
South Africa's Comedy Festival returns with a week jam-packed with stand-up comedy. For a moment, please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. In Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo says the country will start producing its own COVID-19 vaccines in January 2024. Delivering his State of the Nation address to Parliament, President Akufo-Addo spoke on a wide range of issues bordering on education, health, agriculture, the economy, and condemned the recent military takeovers in West Africa.
In a State of the Nation address, Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo announced that a National Vaccine Institute will be established to lay out a strategy for the West African country to begin the first phase of commercial production for vaccines by 2024.
The Presidential Vaccine Manufacturing Committee, which has set up to respond to this obvious deficiency, has put in place a comprehensive strategy for domestic vaccine production and the establishment of a National Vaccine Institute to implement the strategy, which will enable us to begin the first phase of commercial production in January 2024. A bill will shortly be brought to you in this House for your support and approval for the establishment of the National Vaccine Institute.
Most remaining coronavirus restrictions in Ghana were lifted over the weekend, with the government citing rapidly declining infections and a relatively successful inoculation campaign. Ghana has so far vaccinated around 21.4% of its population. The president, who chairs regional bloc ECOWAS, also deplored a string of coups that have taken place across West Africa over the past 18 months.
Mr. Speaker, it might also be well that coup d'etats have re-entered our discourse because of the turmoil in our neighborhood. The West African region is suddenly back in the international news headlines for all the wrong reasons. We're back again as the region of political instability and the place for coups. Long and bitter experience led ECOWAS to its current stance of zero intolerance for military freedoms. We in Ghana know the cost of instability. It leads to the exodus of our artisans and professionals and the emptying of teachers from our schools.
The governments of Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea have all been toppled since August 2020. Regional leaders are seeking to hasten a return to constitutional order through sanctions and ultimatums.
The Director General of the World Health Organization says the virus causing the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic is likely to keep evolving as transmission continues globally, but its severity will reduce due to immunity acquired by vaccination and infection. Speaking at an online briefing, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus gave 3 possible scenarios for how the pandemic could evolve this year. He also reiterated that equitable vaccination remains the single most powerful tool to save lives.
Based on what we know now, the most likely scenario is that the virus continues to evolve, but the severity of disease it causes reduces over time as immunity increases due to vaccination and infection. Periodic spikes in cases and deaths may occur as immunity wanes, which may require periodic boosting for vulnerable populations. In the best case scenario, we may see less severe variants emerge and boosters or new formulations of vaccines won't be necessary. In the worst case scenario, a more virulent and highly transmissible variant emerges. Against this new threat, people's protection against severe disease and death, either from prior vaccination or infection, will wane rapidly. Addressing this situation would require significantly altering the current vaccines and making sure they get to the people who are most vulnerable to severe disease.
And finally, on a lighter note, after a 2-year break, the Johannesburg International Comedy Festival has returned with a week jam-packed with stand-up comedy. With COVID-19 restrictions eased in the country, comedy fans in South Africa are excited to welcome the comedians back on stage. Let's take a listen. Saturday night was full of laughs in South Africa's capital, with the return of the annual Johannesburg International Comedy Festival after a 2-year break due to COVID-19 restrictions.
Guys, it was rough. Do you remember, guys? I don't think you guys remember how bad things were bad.
It's the highlight of 6 days of hilarious performances featuring more than 30 comedians from across Africa, including the creme de la creme of South African comedy, Kagiso Lediga.
People lost work. Companies closed in this country.
South Africa recently announced it was relaxing its COVID restrictions, which now allows more in-person events to take place. And COVID was featured heavily in many of the stand-up acts.
We survived an entire pandemic. We survived. Turn to your neighbor, say neighbor. We survived. Guys, things were bad. Look at us breathing freely. Each other's air. Breathe out.
For many of the performers, the sold-out shows was an indication that people have been craving to be entertained again.
There's a feeling you get when the audience laughs, when so many people laugh at the same time. You can literally feel it in the stage. You know, for me, I don't think the audience knows that it's as therapeutic for me as it is for them.
One of the festival's shining light was Uganda's Salvador, who left audience in stitches with his skits on how he got married during the pandemic.
Until one time I came back from jogging and I found out watching How to Get Away with Murder. After the third episode, I proposed. We are now married. We can have a COVID baby.
Being a comedian in Uganda is funny because every day there's something new that happens that is really funny. So it is quite easy, but people have not yet adopted it, that it is a profession that you can earn from. So the few of us who are doing it, we are working so hard to let people know that, you know what, this is actually serious business.
Tawanda Bima is the festival director, who said the idea behind the event began in 2015 when he realized that the continent had many talented comedians, but there was no festival to showcase their work. He said there could not have been a better time for this event to return with some comic relief.
It's just been dark times, you know, and I think we just needed some levity and laughter, you know, just socially, just for people to get together and talk about the things we've been going through and the challenges and all the hardships and so forth, and be able to laugh about it. So I felt like there's been a massive sort of, you know, comedic relief, you know, through this whole process, not only for audiences, but for talent as well. So it's been really, really amazing.
Some of you are still waiting for the show to stop. Actually, I don't want to say it's you, that it's you.
For comedy lovers, this is a great opportunity to be out laughing a lot of the things that were not really funny at the height of the pandemic.
I'm not gonna lie, Paul was amazing. He took the cake by far. He was amazing. I think he just put on a stellar performance. He was so funny from the beginning, and he hyped everyone up and he just kept them coming in and welcoming them. So it was really cool to see.
No, people lost work. Companies closed in this country.
As COVID restrictions continue to ease, organizers intend to make this fiesta a platform for African comedians to showcase their talent and also network with each other. You'll definitely need a good laugh. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyo Lashibuale. Bye for now.